just to recap on what we talked about, we finished the first paragraph. For those who come for the first time, you probably don't know what we are talking about. We are talking on a sutra written about a Buddha, Amitabha Buddha. We've been listening to a lot of people chanting the name Amitabha, or in Chinese, Namo Amitabha, Amitabha. Why do we have to chant a Buddha name? What's the significance of it? Why do we have to chant at all? We can just meditate. Why is there chanting meditation? Where does the chanting words come from? What is a mantra? All these you need to clear up in your mind. You see, the Buddhist teaching is not blind faith. It's not just believing in a Buddha and I'm safe. No. A Buddha is the teacher who told you the right way to go. You have to walk the way yourself. If you don't walk the way, you can't get to your destination. But the most important is you're going to have the map to guide you to go to that way. So we need to study sutras to increase wisdom. So we always have been studying sutra. This is the first paragraph that we have covered already. We have covered quite a bit. And today we're going to the second paragraph. He dwelt together with, he means the Buddha. He dwelt together with these and many other great disciples, and together with many noble-minded Bodhisattvas, such as Manjushri, the prince, the Bodhisattva Ajita, the Bodhisattva Gandhahastin, the Bodhisattva Niyota Yukoto, the Bodhisattva Anixipta Dura. He dwelt together with them and many other noble-minded Bodhisattvas, and with Sakra, the Indra or king of the Devas, and with Brahman Sahampanti, with these and many other 100,000 Nayutas of the sons of the gods. The scripture that we have been talking now was translated 1,900 years ago from Sanskrit into Chinese. And then just about 120 years ago, a German scholar dug from an Indian ground a scroll of Sanskrit, and he translated the Sanskrit from Sanskrit into English. And this is the translation. The two matches. The two happen in two different times, but the content matched together. He dwelt together with these many other great disciples and together with noble-minded. We all know what noble-minded means. Bodhisattvas, we may not know what it means. What is a bodhisattva? Bodhisattvas are Buddha to be. They will be Buddha. They are practicing the way to become the Buddha. They are called bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas have different levels. If you vow to follow the Bodhi way, the enlightened way, you are a preliminary and initial bodhisattva, because you have vowed to follow the Bodhi way, the enlightenment way. You have vowed to follow Anuttara Samya Sambuddhi. Of course, you have to know what Buddhi means. You have to know what Buddhi means. We already have explained that in detail, but just for people who may not understand, Bodhi is enlightenment. In other words, you come to a realization within yourself. Your wisdom level, you continue to cultivate your wisdom level gradually until it reaches the higher and higher and higher point until you get to the highest point of the wisdom. You, everybody, has that wisdom inside of you. Have you started your cultivation? Now let's come together to find out more about this. Let's come together to understand ourselves. Not talking about understand gods, understand Buddha. Did you understand yourself first? Before you understand the Buddha and gods? Buddhism is about understanding of yourself. What is a bodhisattva? A bodhisattva is the Buddha to be in pursuit of the highest wisdom. You have that wisdom, and that wisdom has been polluted for many, many lifetimes. Let's find out what a bodhisattva. Before we find out, let's generalize it and say, how many ways are there to go on to this enlightenment? A bodhisattva is pursuing enlightenment. How many ways we can do it? Many, many ways. I summarize it for you in here. The Stravakas, we call it. These practitioners lived at the time of the Buddha when they had listened to the Buddha's teaching personally. Or they later read the Buddha's teachings and listened to teachers of Buddhism and practiced accordingly. Like you and me. We've been reading the Buddha's teaching in the form of literature, in the form of language and words. We listen to teachers. Or if you were born 2,600 years ago in India, in Kapilavastu, you could be one of the followers of the Buddha. You actually listen to the Buddha. Sakyamuni Buddha is a historical Buddha of human civilization. We all know that. That's world history. There is such a Buddha 2,600 years ago in India, Sakyamuni Buddha. He practiced the way, and he had a lot of followers and disciples. If you lived then, at that time, you are a Stravaka pursuing the enlightened way through the teaching of the Buddha. When the Buddha passed away, then you read his teaching in the form of language, translations. So you are Stravakas, because actually you have something to rely on. You have literature, you have teachings to rely on. You have teachers to rely on. And there are also 4 levels for the Stravakas. The first level is Strota Apana. Second is Anagaman. Third, Sakridagaman. Fourth, and Arahats. They work gradually up. Of course, if we want to venture into how each level worked out, you got to study it. I'm just giving you a generalization now. There's so much to study in Buddhism. If you live up to 100 years old, you cannot read all the literature in Buddhism. Of course, right now, the most extensive is in the Chinese language. Because throughout the centuries, all these Chinese monks, they traveled to India through the desert, through the Silk Way, many of them. And they carried sutras back to China, organized translation academies, hundreds of people translating this literature into Chinese. They worked their way. They put in a lot of work over the centuries. That's the reason why the richest, the largest resource of the Buddhist teaching is in the Chinese language, because these people, they worked towards it for centuries, since thousands of years ago. But recently, for the past 200-300 years, there have been a lot of English translations, lots of them, hundreds of them. A Chinese philosopher, Lao Tzu, and he said, 1,000,000 miles of journey starts from the first step. Have you taken your first step? The most important is your first step. Or you haven't taken any step at all. If you stride out your first step, and you continue and continue, you get to your destination. That first step is very important. A big tree, start with a shooting, start with a little seed. So you got to start somewhere. The Stravakas now, okay? These people, they have literature to rely on. They have written records to rely on. And there are also others, the second kind of practitioners, the Pratyakas, those who lived at a time when there was no Buddha and no Buddhist teaching. These practitioners attained self-enlightenment through contemplation of the 12 dependent links of origination. We already have taught it. Paticca Samuppada, you already have known it. We live in a time now where there's no Buddha. The Buddha passed away 2,600 years ago, but we still have the Buddhist teaching in words, in language. We're the lucky ones. There are other times when there's actually no Buddhist teaching at all. The 12 links of dependent origination, about the origin of life. People usually ask, where did we come from? How come we born to this world? Why do we have to go through all that we have experienced? What's the point of all these things? Why is there a link of life and death? Why is there no samsara? We studied that in Paticca Samuppada. If you missed it, get into internet. Find out the 12 dependent links of origination to study the origin of life, how life evolved from life after life, one after another. We don't just live in this lifetime, you know. The time dimension the Buddha brought to us is not about just one lifetime. It's not just about today. In a short perspective, we have today, yesterday, and tomorrow. It's three-dimensional. The past, the present, and the future. But you're considering that just within your own lifetime. The Buddha extended this one lifetime to many lifetimes, and he said, you got a life not only of this life, you got a previous lives too. Many previous lives. You evolve from those previous lives into what you are today, bringing yourself a lot of karma. You know what karma means? Everybody is different. Their plights are different. What they encounter are different. Some are rich, some are poor, some are healthy, some are not healthy. Some have good families, some have broken families, some got divorced, some got good husbands and wives, some got good children, filial pieties, and some got miserable lives. Why? Why are all these differences? Because our karma are different. What you have done in your past are different. You were very generous in your past life. And that cultivation of cause may be the main reason for you being very, very rich in this life. Because you have cultivated, you have sowed all these seeds of being rich. So your richness did not come without any reason. There's cause and effect, when we call it causality. A very profound concept in the Buddhist teaching is causality. Let's go down the line. So the Pratyeka Buddhas depend on themselves for the 12 links of dependent origination. Next is Bodhisattvas, practitioners who vow to attain Bodhi, complete enlightenment, and practice the 6 paramitas. Generosity, morality, endurance, diligence, meditation, and wisdom. These are the 6 paramitas. What's the meaning of paramitas? Paramitas is going to perfection. Paramitas is all-embracive and includes all the good deeds. It's like panorama. What is that panorama word comes from? A broad view. It's all including all the good deeds. Did you do all the good deeds? These are just general keywords. Are you generous? Do you follow morality? What is sila? Did you kill? Did you steal? Did you commit sexual misconduct? Did you slander? Did you curse? Did you do all these bad deeds? If you have done all those bad deeds, you created karma. You can't get away with this. You created energy. And that energy carried you all the way through to what you are today. So a Bodhisattva vowed to attain Bodhi through all these. And the Bodhisattva vowed to attain Bodhi not just for himself, but for all sentient beings. So the first 2, 1 and 2, are self-enlighteners, mostly, generally. They care for themselves more. And the Bodhisattva are one with all sentient beings. That means they care not just for themselves, for all others. They cannot live alone by enlightening himself. He has to enlighten others. In other words, the first 2 learn how to swim. They can swim across the ocean of life and death. A Bodhisattva participate in not just learning how to swim in teaching others how to swim, so that all sentient beings can swim across the ocean of life and death and get to that nirvana, that shore of nirvana, that shore of a bodhi, that shore of enlightenment, from this confused shore of mental afflictions. A bodhisattva is an enlightened being who is practicing every day towards complete enlightenment, and we call it Anuttara Samya Sambuddhi. It's a Sanskrit word. If you want to pursue more about the meaning of it, write down the Sanskrit word and get into Google and find out more information. You are right now in the middle of some Buddhist philosophy which is very profound. You don't expect yourself to understand everything. If you're a first-time comer, probably you haven't read this before. Probably you don't even know that Buddhism is not just about worshiping. Buddhism is about understanding yourself and resolve all your problems through yourself. And of course, Bodhisattvas, Buddhas, they are ready to help you too. It's just like when you are in this shore of confusion and mental affliction, and you want to go to that shore of enlightenment, you got to swim across that ocean of life and death. How do you swim across it? You swim yourself. You depend on yourself. But there are also boats that you can sit in. Those boats are available to you. Those boats are prepared by Bodhisattvas and Buddhas and Arahats and all the saints. Are you ready to get onto those boats? Or you just learn it yourself? You can swim by yourself, but you can get onto the boat. You still have to walk onto the boats though. Mahasattvas, Maha Sanskrit meaning great, Sattva meaning beings. These Bodhisattvas are not just ordinary beings, they're great Bodhisattvas. If you vow to enlighten all others, if you vow to do all the good deeds, if you vow to take on a mission of purifying not just yourself, the whole world, you are a Bodhisattva. So in other words, if I'm a politician and I vow I'm going to introduce measures to benefit my citizens, my country people, but at the same time, I want to take an international perspective. I want to purify not just our people, but people of the whole world. At the same time, not just egoistic about your own country, internationally about everybody. So that's a great Bodhisattva's thinking. A Bodhisattva has many levels. The 10 spiritual realms of the Bodhisattvas all have meaning. In the Chinese language, 菩萨有10地, the great joy realm, 欢喜地, stainless realm, 离垢地, luminous realm, 颜慧地, radiant realm, 法光地. Very difficult to train. 难生地, in other words, help sentient beings attain maturity and do not become emotionally involved when such beings respond negatively, both of which are difficult to do. The emphasized perfection is meditative concentration. So what we are learning, all the practice, would gear us towards the Bodhisattva's way. But when you are helping others, at the same time you're helping yourself. The great joy is the first glimpse of enlightenment, feeling great joy, emphasizing on all parameters, especially dana. What does that mean? Let's simplify our talking by not using too much nomenclature of Buddhism, by not using too much jargons. Why are we meditating? We're meditating, why? I gave an example at the beginning of the session. We're taking a bath every day to clean the dirt off our body. But none of us think about cleaning our mind. What happened to you if you don't clean up your mind regularly? It's the same as not cleaning up your body. Your mind gets all the garbage. That's the reason why people have depression, jealousy, hatred, fear, anger, anger, violence. How many mental afflictions? I give you a piece of paper and I said, write down all the mental garbage that people have or what you have. Maybe you don't even think about it. Maybe you can't even write. I said, do you have any mental garbage? No, I don't have any mental garbage. I'm okay. But the next minute you were crying, you were sad, you were jealous, you were egoistic. Are those not mental garbage? Not just you, that includes me. If you still don't know what is mental afflictions, why don't you buy Sun, the Globe and Mail, flip to the first page and try to find out what relates to mental affliction. International wars, even natural disasters, earthquake, genocide, killing, raping, stealing. You can write a lot. Get a piece of paper and start from the first page. Try to find out what relates to mental afflictions, what relates to mental garbage, what comes out because of mental garbage. And you have a very long list. Do we need to clean them? Nobody thought about it. They say, you clean up your garbage, you better be nice to me. I feel unhappy because of you. I feel angry because you make me angry. Did you ever blame yourself? You think all the others make you angry. You think all the others make you have violence behavior. You think you curse because you infuriate me. That's why I curse. You always blame the other guys. You don't blame yourself because you don't see, you don't reflect on yourself. You don't contemplate on your mind. You always blame the others. You always blame your family members. You always blame your dad for not giving you the education, your mom for not looking after you. You always blame your boyfriend for not treating you nicely, or your girlfriend for getting away from you. Have you ever looked at yourself? Why? If everybody knows how to clean up his mind every day, doing a half hour or 15 minutes meditation, you know how much help that would be to your life? You sit down and say, oh yeah, I shouldn't be greedy. I shouldn't be egoistic. But you need a basis to work on. You don't even know what is egoism. So you need a morality foundation to work on. You need to know what is wrong and what is right. There's so much to learn in Buddhism. Just morality. Buddhism has 3 columns to support a foundation. Morality, meditation, and wisdom. You got to know in your everyday life what you should do and what you should not do. It's extremely important that you know what you should not do. You should not kill, you should not steal, for example. You should not commit sexual misconduct. You should not slander. You should not use immoral language. You should not be double-tonguing. There's a lot of things we should not do, but we have been doing them. Generally, all these things that you have done fall into 3 categories: greediness, hatred, and ignorance. That covers almost all. But if you are an inquisitive listener, you will say, no, what you're saying is not right. I've been doing good things too. I've been courteous, I've been helpful. Yes, you have been. Whatever good things you have done, you got good karma. Whatever bad things you have done, you got bad karma. How many good karma you have accumulated? And how many bad ones? I can tell you, maybe more bad than good. Okay, another 5 levels. Obviously, transcendent level, 先前地. Gone afar level, 远行地. Immovable realm, 不动地. Good discriminating wisdom, 三位地. So if you've gone to the obviously transcendent realm, but depending on the perfection of wisdom, the Bodhisattva does not abide in either samsara or nirvana. The emphasized perfection is wisdom or prajna. This is not easy for beginners. When you're up to the 8th realm, the immovable realm, that's the turning point. You don't need to work with efforts. You work spontaneously. In other words, when you meditate for a long time, your mind is geared towards this purification that you don't need efforts to work at it. You just continuously work at it without applying efforts at all. This is getting more and more profound, but for the time being, just know that the Bodhisattvas have different levels of study, different level of practice. But all this practice includes 3 broad categories: the practice of morality, the practice of meditation, and the practice of elevation of wisdom. We call it samadhi and vipassana. Let's get on, Bodhisattvas. Now let's get on to the book. The book said that when Buddha started to talk about the Sutra, talk about Amitabha, there's so many Bodhisattvas in the assembly. Like you are in the assembly, yeah, you are in our congregation now. But when Buddha was talking on the history, the significance of Amitabha Buddha, a lot of Bodhisattvas participated, a lot of arahats participated, a lot of disciples, his disciples participated. And one of the many Bodhisattvas is Manjushri Bodhisattva. Manjushri meaning gentle glory. He's a personification of transcendent wisdom. His name appears frequently in various sutras. He was foremost in cultivation of wisdom. He's also called the Prince of the Dharma. So that's the reason why it says Prince of the Dharma. He's called the Prince because the Buddha was the king of the Dharma. So he's the Prince of the Dharma. 4 important Bodhisattvas in Mahayana Buddhism: Manjushri Bodhisattva, Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, and Siddhagapa Bodhisattva. The 4 important ones. Now if you go to the main gracious hall in this temple, the 4 standing Bodhisattvas, these are the 4. Wanshusri Pusa, Manjushri Bodhisattva, Guan Pusa, Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, Pusyen Pusa, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, Siddhagapa Bodhisattva, Dijang Pusa. They personify 4 things: wisdom, compassion, practice, and vow. So Manjushri Bodhisattva was present in the congregation when Buddha was talking about Amitabha Buddha. And then Ajita Bodhisattva, Sanskrit for invincible, also known as Maitreya, the compassionate one. Who is Ajita Bodhisattva? When you first walk into the temple from the garden into the driveway, what do you see? You see a laughing Buddha with a big belly, right? That's Ajita. He appeared in many forms, sometimes in a big belly monk. It's a fat, laughing monk. He's Ajita. He specialized in cultivating compassion, samadhi, compassionate to all beings. He's now in Tushita heaven and will come to this world as the next Buddha after Sakyamuni Buddha. I can only finish 4 slides. I plan to finish more, but I should talk maybe a little bit more about Ajita Bodhisattva. Our historical Buddha is Sakyamuni Buddha, who was born in India 2,600 years ago. Actually, history of human civilization had a record of this Buddha. It's not fake. A Buddha is not a fake person. It's written in history of human beings. In Kapilavastu, 2,600 years ago, his name was Siddhartha Gautama. He was the prince of Kapilavastu in a country in India. He became a monk and he later attained enlightenment, and he promoted his teaching that he found to the whole world, even up to now. Some people will ask, why did Buddha born in India? How come not in North America? How come not in China? I'm a Mexican, maybe I should be born in Mexico. I'm a Japanese. Why didn't Buddha born in Japan? Why pick India? According to some scriptures, at that time, geographically, India was the center of the planes of existence. There's 3 planes of existence, I'll explain it to you. According to the Buddhist cosmology. You know what cosmology? The shape and evolution of the universe. Buddhism study cosmology. Buddhism has a very extensive literature in cosmology. How the world is formed, how the universe evolved. And according to scriptures, India is considered to be the center. So when the Buddha came out, it's natural that came from the center. And then this prince, this person, this saint, he reincarnated into a prince, Siddhartha Gautama, and became the Buddha. But previously, he had been practicing many, many lifetimes. And Ajita Bodhisattva is the next Buddha. Slowly, gradually, Buddhism will die out in this world. I don't know how many years, maybe thousands of years later, there will be none. There will be no Buddhism. Because everything has its arising, maintaining, disintegrating, and disappearing. Our body goes through the same process. We're being born, and we go through adulthood, childhood, adulthood, and then we age, and then we die. The body goes through that cycle. Everything in the universe goes through this cycle. You name me one thing that does not die. You name me one thing that would exist permanently. You think this will exist permanently? I'm sure you know that my body, your body, will not exist permanently. Will anything exist permanently? Nothing exists permanently. Everything is impermanent. But everything is impermanent, but we take it as everlasting. We know that death is always confronting us. You are 25 years old and you think, I'm young, I will live until 96. We don't know. Nobody knows what tomorrow would be. One accident would take you away. Nobody knows. So death is always confronting us. But to everybody, death is so remote. You never think of it. You never think of dying. You think of dying? Nobody thinks of dying. Because it sounds so remote. It is not. It is not. So why don't we start to know, what are we going to do? Yes, we're not. It is not. But how do we get away from all this suffering? Why do we have to reincarnate again?